show you some of the things that we that the Team Foundation server really is about here. So a lot of this starts within Visual Studio. It's centered around Visual Studio. Everyone is using it on the team. That means program managers, testers, and developers.
And if you have another version of Visual Studio, is it possible to use Team Foundation server?
Yes, it's possible to use parts of it. All of what I'm showing here is particular to 2010. Yeah, there's a lot of what I'm showing here that's not possible in 2008. They have really done a lot to integrate the testing experience into 2010, which is also why you see only lab management is working on 2010 and some of the testing tools. I'll show you some of these things. So, for those of you who know, let me just find my mouse here. For those of you who know Visual Studio 2008, you'll see this is much the same. I mean, we have the same list of projects here. For those that are new, I can say that, let me see, this one. These projects are really what everything is going into from a release vehicle point of view. So a release vehicle is a product you want to release as a unit. So there can be many installers in one product release. So we are taking a look into this one, dummy, that I'm using for this demo, and I've prepared a few things here. There's one thing I really have to go into here, just to set the stage for the demo. It's the concept of areas and iterations. It might seem like a fairly benign thing, but everything in Team Foundation server is really comprised of an area and an iteration. So an area, that's a physical part of your delivery. So that can be an installer, it can be into a window, it can be anything that has direct regards to the physical delivery. Now, an iteration, that's a time-based unit. So what you do is you split up your project in time slices, and for us that is using the Agile, we tend to call these for sprints. So we have sprint blah blah blah. I just want to show this because it's important when I show the rest of this demo here. So I've made an area called Speaker's Corner. Very, very non-intuitive from a delivery point of view, but let's say that I want to deliver a physical thing called Speaker's Corner. So I just need to set that stage. Alright. So, from within here, I can make a user story. Let's just do this. So, the user story is what you saw on that on the first of my slides with the graphs, the one I called the overview of everything. So the user story here is basically a title, and then there's a description, there's a type of user I want to do something, and this is what the developers are going to work for, achieving this goal from a user point of view. And as you see here, there's an area and there's an iteration on it. And this will be on all of the work items that are in Team Foundation server. And work items are all of the things that you can actually create, like user stories, test cases, tasks, and what have you. And all of these are bound together by primarily these two areas. These two fields, like area and iteration. So, let me just pull up the query here and say that I want to see a user story that I created. So I made this beforehand. So as a presenter, I want to show how the test case maps into requirements so the audience say, let's see if that works. So I've set the area to the speaker's corner and iteration to sprint 1. So fairly simple requirement. Let me just show you the task here. So a lot of people are using this for testing and trying and demoing and whatnot. So I made this task. So I want to create a test plan. And this books into also the same area, the same sprint. And what is more interesting is that I have linked this to the user story. So now we have a user story. It has one task. We have an estimate of 100 hours on it. We have 30 remaining and we've completed 70. So basically these guys are extremely good at estimating their own time, it seems like. So that's good. They're 70% done. And if I go in and see that this actually works, I'm going in and showing you how the reporting system here works, because you'll see here that now it's showing the stories overview, and this screen is not big enough. Let's see. Let me just close up. So it's the same thing as before. The user story I have here, I've had my task committed to it by the area. And you'll see that there's 30 hours remaining and we have a few test points here. Now, the concept of test points, I'll get back to that because that's not necessarily a test case, but I'll show you what a test point is. And that's also a pretty nice thing for a tester to have this distinction between test cases and test points, because this is a combination of test cases that need to be executed on different configurations that you have in your support matrix. So you automatically get not only how many test cases you need to execute, but also the combination of all the environments that you have set up on your test matrix, and that can be specified for the test case. So with this in mind, you have a pretty good overview of how far are you with a certain feature. And just to say, yeah, these extra user stories we have down here, that's because we have no filter on our area. And as you can see, the filters available are area and iteration, and that's why those two things are so important to put on your work items in Ciklum data server. But if I go in and say, yep, I want to have speaker's corner, so I see that specific area of my delivery, I see only the things that are important to that. So that's very important concept in Ciklum data server. So that's a short little. There's actually one more thing I'd like to show you that's interesting from a test point of view. So I'm putting up another report here, test plan progress. And you see again, it just takes everything from the project if you just open it like that. So we need to put it filter it down, and what you see here is now I can pull it out and see how far I've gotten on my test plan. So there's been a few failed test cases here, and this graph would be so much more interesting if 600 and 300 of them have passed and 200 failed. But never mind, you see the picture, you see the point of it. All right, so to get all of this running, we need to have our Test Professional edition, and that's a new tool they made. It's the long word of this is Microsoft Test and Lab Manager, and that's because it's in integration of both testing tools and lab management tools. I'll only be showing the test tools here, and I'm just going to pull this up here. So, this is something that looks nothing like anything else in Visual Studio. It's a brand new client, and they have been having fun making the UI, I think. But never mind, it actually does work. So you start by connecting to your project. So we are going to connect to our little dummy project here. There's my test plan. So what you want to do is you want to create a test plan for each of your sprints, basically. So that's why the naming convention we have chosen for us is to put in the sprint on your test plan, because that makes all of the reporting work really easy. So here's the test plan you get built up. Some few things to note here. You get a test plan with your name here, and then you begin building suites down here. So you get several different suites in one test plan, and you execute all of that test plan during the sprint, and hopefully you get to 100% completion and all are good. Now, what's also interesting here is that not only can you just name a suite something and create a folder, but you can actually pull in a requirement. So you see this requirement, that's a user story I showed you before. So you pull in the user story and you attach the test cases directly to that user story. So they're linked in the system, so you can see. So it shows up in all of our reports. And I also want to show you here that, again, I'm going to say there's a lot of times area and iteration. Go through everything. And that goes for 2008 as well for you that are using it. Please be sure to put that in. Anyways, there's a lot of things on this screen that's interesting from a test point of view.